Hello everybody and welcome to my second eventing vlog. It's actually the night before the competition, but tomorrow Zen and Jimmy are headed off to Waverton Cotswold Cup. Zen is going to be doing the 90, hoping, well, it's his first time stepping back up to 90 after rehab, so hoping just that he takes it all in his stride and he's happy and confident and just bosses it. That's the dream. And Jimmy is doing the 80. I'm actually currently keeping Jimmy at 80 because he struggles a little bit with confidence in his surroundings, not the jumps. He's bold as brass with jumps, it's just with everything around him. So really, I'm hoping he just goes out and has a relaxed, cheerful, confident time and just builds on the work we've been doing outside of the competition. So that's the goal with them. I was meant to be taking Bella tomorrow as well, but I've unfortunately decided to withdraw her. It's quite a long story and I think it deserves more than a cursory mention, so I will be fully explaining it in my next training vlog. Shamelessly, if you want to know the full story, watch my next video. not even gonna try and dodge that one. And yeah, without further ado, I think there is nothing else to do except crack on and get prepped for tomorrow. I also went and helped a working equitation show last weekend, and I wore joggers with trainer socks and completely forgot about sunburn. And let me show you the damage. Look, that is literally like a week after I was helping out at the competition, and that's sunburn. Let's see if I can get a look at that. Very pretty. Yeah. Look how beautiful they are. Right, boys, now it's time to ruin the aesthetic. That is horses done, lorry loaded, and ready for tomorrow. Come on, boys. They like breakfast. Now I'm going to say something that might come as a surprise to some people, but actually a lot of the work in this test showed really quite good improvement from Jimmy. Particularly, there's some very obvious loss of balance, which comes out in terms of head movement and resistance to the contact. There's also issues with him being light to the contact and also with his regularity in the trot. However, the thing that I think is quite heartening is how much more swingy and loose Jimmy's trot is, and actually he is stepping a lot better behind. With a horse like Jimmy, it's kind of slow progress, and you can see that the canter work as well. Anyone who's been following my training diaries will know that canter is a particular point that I've been working on very hard with Jimmy. It's not something that comes naturally to him, and there's some really nice improvement in terms of, okay, yeah, sure, he lost balance several times on that circle, and my accuracy needs work, and you know, we drift a little bit, we're not straight, laterally not straight, but there's some really nice improvements in the rhythm and his ability to stay sat a little bit better. In that downwards transition, he lacked a bit of confidence in the fact that he could go forward, and there we got a slight lack of reach into the reins. On this turn here, it's a good example of losing the quarters and the horse not being supple through the bend. So there he kind of stayed straight and pivoted around the front end. But that canter transition was better than the first, and actually really not a bad one. Loss of balance afterwards. But a lot of this sort of slight resistance and loss of balance is him being a bit tense, not quite straight. And to be honest, I don't mind the horses being inconsistent to the contact, because I'd much rather my horse has the freedom to use its head as needed. and to lift its head and express itself when it loses balance, than, you know, be in a consistent fixed frame.
Bit of a rapid swap on to sausage. So fingers crossed for sausage's dressage.
Now, as usual, I entered the arena and immediately we had a fly around our ears, which I was really worried about, but actually didn't cause too much trouble through the test, just the odd bit. The thing that was really heartening about this test in hindsight was that the judge absolutely loved Zen's basic trot work and commented on how active he is behind and his engagement, which is something that I've focused on a lot in recent weeks. And her baseline, the judge's baseline, was an 8 for his trot, his basic quality of trot. So, I mean, to have had that confirmation that we're headed in the right direction and that he is more engaged than his last outing, where he just looked the picture was a lot greener, was really heartening. Now here we had a little bit of confusion, which again comes back to the work we're doing at home, because I've been doing a lot of transitions, asking him to engage more, including walk to canter, walk to trot, so that I just obviously was a bit unclear to him what I was asking for. And this transition was actually quite nice, but late. Now in his canter, his engagement again is improving a lot. He's a lot more collected than he has been. But if you look at his outside hind on both reins, it's just trailing and not really coming forward and through as much as he's quite active on the inside, but that I just like more from that outside. And my view on that is actually it's something that will improve as I'm get better at straightening him out in the canter. He tends to be crooked to the inside, so a bit quarters in on both reins. And that means it's a lot harder for him to bring that outside hind through. So if I can balance him out and get him a bit straighter, the outside's going to find it easier to come forward. However, this quality of trot, like, again, really nice. He looks so much more mature. And that was a nice downwards transition. And he quickened into the upwards, which is a shame, but at least it was a walk to trot rather than a trot to canter. And again, that's something I know about. I should have gathered him a bit more for this transition and kept him off the inside shoulder better so it's not clean. Now, you'll hear in a bit that I was not very happy actually with this test immediately after it. And I think actually now that I've thought about it in hindsight, it was a reflection on how I felt I rode in this test. Because Zen was a little bit tense, and you can see that with the occasional bits of resistance. And I was disappointed in myself because I felt I responded to that by going to the hand, which just isn't something that really jives with how I like to ride my horses. You can see there loss of quarters to the outside. It's something just for me to be conscious of and try and do better with. Again, a little bit of confusion in that downwards transition to walk. It's interesting, it was with both horses, so it's clearly a pattern across my horses I just need to be conscious of. And this halt was not quite square, but that's just a case of increasing engagement down into the downwards transition and getting him to step up behind.
Not going to lie, I wish those had gone a little bit better. I thought both of them were just a little bit distracted. But that's okay. It's their first time out together as well as a pair. And obviously Zen's only second time out this year, which sometimes I find they are a bit more lit up for. So Jimmy was slightly caned, which I can't really object to because I think it depends what the judge is looking at. And you know, there's various things if the judge focuses in on it. Yeah, understandable. So he got a 43. And Zenny Boy I thought was quite generously marked for a 31, but like I said, I haven't seen the videos, so that will be interesting. And Zen has a coffin. It's sort of in an angle, so I can either angle it or go straight and turn. Decisions. So if I jump part A straight, I'm going to lock onto the 100 jump, and that's not fair on him. So we're going to go for a very little bit of an angle. Kind of aiming for the tree, I think. And then a very gentle curve.
Little Jim Jam's show jumping round, and you'll be able to see there's quite clear signs that he is not very confident with his surroundings. It's not a bad first jump, a little bit deep, but that's fine. And then there I had to open him up and it was all a bit inconsistent. And I think the inconsistency for me is the biggest sign of his lack of confidence in his surroundings, because where he changes rhythm and pace quite abruptly, or there he's hanging on the right towards the other horses, and again after that jump, there we have a spook. Like, he's doing really well, but there's just loads of little signs that just reflect his greenness and his lack of confidence. He jumps a lot of these jumps really nicely. That was a really good jump there, and again he jumps this really nicely. So I really feel he's got a great jump. He's got a great attitude towards the jumps. That's not an issue. It's just everything around him. And then here, unfortunately, there was a bit of a change in pace, and then it kind of came out as me flattening him a bit into the double. And again, like, I was a little bit deep here and we just tapped that pole. But it's okay. I'm not too fussed at all. Moving straight into his cross country, very similar themes come up. So generally it's not an unpleasant picture. Like, he looks like a green horse going around, but I don't want him to look like a green horse anymore. I want him to start looking confident and much more owning what's going on. And you'll see there's little moments like in front of that jump where we have a change in rhythm. Afterwards we're wobbling quite a lot because he's just looking a little bit at his surroundings. And all of this again just reflects that slight lack of confidence. There was that jink just there as well. And he's bold as brass. Like, when it comes to jumps, he will jump anything once he's happy with what's around him. And actually, I got to just own up here. We did have a run out at a very simple brush, sort of middle of the way through the course, which again had nothing to do really, I think, with the brush, and everything to do with him just feeling a bit overwhelmed in this big open space. And again, you can see he spooked at everything except the jump he jumped at the last one. And like, he's really cool. He's going to be so cool. He's got such a lovely, steady, consistent rhythm. He's so adjustable from a rider's perspective. And he's quite a strong little horse, and he has got a good pop. I feel like we got a lot of untapped scope. It's just about, before I move him on and up, getting him much more solid and confident, because there's no point rushing this, because this is an issue that needs resolving, or it's going to stay throughout the rest of his career. So sure, not the perfect day for Jimmy, but I think it's all part of the process of producing a young horse and trying to help them through these little difficulties.
Would you like another try at having a drink, mate? Juicy? You really don't want to drink, do you?
So Jim Jam was absolutely fine. Like, he's got quite a long way to go on the confidence in his surroundings, but we knew that, and I'm working on it. And to be honest, it's been a trend really from his early days. So yeah, now on to Zen, and I'm hoping we have a happy keen bean in the best way possible, not too keen.
There's a lot to really like about Zen's show jumping. He's really happy and confident, puts in some really nice little jumps actually, and actually I thought he was really quite careful and thoughtful about where he was with his feet. There I had meant to change leads, but didn't really manage to get myself organised in time. And I think that's a consistent theme across this round, especially down lines. Rebalancing him and reorganising him and sort of keeping him up and together is something I really need to look at working on at home. Here we're on the inside shoulder, a bit onwards bound, and I push him for a long shot that I probably shouldn't have. It wasn't bad, but that's just why we had that pull down. And then he jumped the next one really well. Again, here we're a bit wobbly and green, and then it's fine, we jump it, but that's why we came in a bit deep, because that adjustability wasn't there due to that wobble on the corner. but he's still quite a big gangly horse. He's got a lot of strength still to come, so that's just going to come with more training, more practice, and a bit more balance in that canter.
So much stronger than last year, darling.
Yeah, and he's just, I think, figuring out he can get up a bit and...
Up a bit, exactly.
Yeah. But I think you're bang on the money. I've just got to remember they're greasy. It's very easy to forget.
Well, after we get that jump, I mean, damn sure
He
we'll
may
rest.
Exactly.
Huh?
Exactly. And to be fair, like, you know, I kind of seem to... I definitely could have ridden it better. That particular jump, yeah. Like I flattened him a bit instead of...
Right, so buckle up because you are going to hear a lot in this round about how proud I am of this horse, because he just came out of the start box like a pro. Like, he knew what he was doing, he was confident, he was just bowling on and just really taking it in his stride. To be a bit critical here, I just let him kind of flatten a bit down the hill and bowl on in a sort of disorganised way. Not something I want to create as a habit in him, so I need to be a bit more disciplined with myself going forward. And then there, I felt he was hanging a little bit on that right shoulder towards the other horses. But it's fine. Again, the straightness and wobbliness is not perfect yet. That's something that we are working on. This was fantastic because actually it was quite a sort of slightly spooky water, and I just wanted to see if I could canter him through it, and he very happily did so. There's a clear bit of crookedness in my position that it's the bane of my existence. The day I fix my crookedness is the day I will probably end up retiring from this sport. But coming down to the coffin on that right shoulder, again, the straightness is something I've got to address. But so bold, and I lost a bit of balance, but he was so bold through that, and you can see how thrilled I was. Like, this horse was just so cool and so bold. So I'm just so excited about what is coming in his future. I think he's so cool, and for the moment I'm keeping him at 90 until he's a bit stronger. But yeah, he's a very exciting horse for the future.
Well, that brings us to the end of a hot, quite sticky and sweaty day. But it's been very lovely, and I think it's kind of been an example of where progress is quite slow and it doesn't always look necessarily perfect on paper. But that doesn't matter, because when you're kind of playing the long game, as long as it's a step forward, it's a step forward. I think Jimmy, as I've said already, Jimmy was absolutely fine. He did really well. He tried really hard. He just needs to keep building a bit more confidence. So, it's clear to me he's still not ready to be moving up. Like, he's not ready full stop until I feel like we've resolved that issue. Even though he can jump, I know he can jump a lot bigger. I'm so sweaty. I'm also thinking about maybe taking him on a bit of a trek. A bit of a multi-day camping trip, because I think that would really, really help him just realize that, like, the big old world is not that scary. So that's just something that might be coming up. I think it would be really good. It's worked wonders in the past, and above all, it's a really nice way to spend time with a horse. So yeah. Zen, on the other hand, I'm very, very pleased with him. I think he stepped up. Jimmy! I think he stepped up brilliantly. He actually managed to get snot all over me. That was gross. Anyway, that's normal for all of us equestrians, isn't it? So yeah, he was fantastic. I think there's a lot of progress on all fronts. We're just kind of unpicking and putting things back together. I think he's making a lot of progress, but when they do make a lot of progress, often it's a bit messy. And yeah, but I mean, that cross country round was wonderful. He was an absolute pro. I'm thrilled. So a lot of exciting stuff for him ahead. Anyway, it's all headed in the right direction. It's just slow progress, and that's kind of what's wonderful about horses. It's a long game. I have had a wonderful day, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend when you get to it. I hope it's lovely and horsey, and I will see you guys in my next video.